The New York Department of Financial Services is the regulator in New York State of banks, but also of money transmitters, and because of the BIT license, which they went through and promulgated as a new license 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, of cryptocurrency exchanges who get licensed in New York. And when they created that new regulation, the BIT license, they included some interesting requirements. For example, they can, if you are a licensed exchange, you have to get permission from them before you engage in any new lines of business. So listing a new cryptocurrency isn't something you can just unilaterally decide to do. You can't just add new coins without first seeking the approval of DFS. Now, Coin Center, when we commented on that regulation that was being created, the BIT license, we said this is not how tech companies work, this is not how they should work. I think it's reasonable to require the tech company, like the exchange, to say, hey, we are going to list these things, you should know about it, and then maybe you need to adjust your minimum capitalization requirements for the new increased risk or things like that. But you shouldn't have to go get permission first to do those things. You should just be open with your regulator and work to find a solution that makes sense. We lost that fight, and the final BIT license included permission rather than just notification. Now, with that context in mind, the decision of the Department of Financial Services to allow Gemini, the exchange, to list Zcash as one of their currency pairs, Zcash to dollars, was a pretty encouraging moment. So while we lost the battle over this question of permission to list new cryptocurrencies, we did get something interesting. We now get a situation where because they've been asked permission to list this new cryptocurrency, they have to sort of opine in a certain way on the relative characteristics of the cryptocurrency. And so the DFS actually, after approving this Zcash pair for Gemini, they put out a press release that said, here's what we see Zcash as, and they gave a very good summary of Zcash that emphasized how it's going, there to protect privacy. And that's important for financial stability and for human dignity and things like that. They didn't say human dignity, but I could read into it. And that is, I think a very useful signal from a regulator that you can have these technologies that are built to protect their users and still comply with the relevant laws. So still comply with the BIT license laws for maintaining, safe custody over consumer assets, still comply with the Bank Secrecy Act regulations with respect to reporting information about money laundering or terrorist financing and things like that. And so it was, I'd say, an important step, both for Zcash, of course, because it's good that there's more exchanges that trade it, but also from a regulatory standpoint. We've been saying at Coin Center for a number of years now, there's no law that says that a bank or other financial institution that has Bank Secrecy Act, anti-money laundering obligations, there's no law that says that they cannot deal in a anonymous or pseudo-anonymous medium of exchange. And of course there isn't, because every bank in the world deals in an anonymous or pseudo-anonymous medium of exchange. It's called cash. And so Zcash, or Monero for that matter, or any other privacy-protecting cryptocurrency, isn't a sea change or a revolution or a massive disruption to their compliance efforts. It's just like cash. You still need to know your customers, but the fact that your customer brought money from someone who was their customer, that's not something you necessarily need to know specific details about. You just need to have a risk-calibrated policy to find out generally where money is coming from. You only need to know specific information about your customer, which an exchange will have, even if that customer is loading Zcash into their account.